One of these young men hopes to be the first human being to fly entirely under his own power. What is your name, please?
My name is Stephen Moore.
My name is Stephen Moore.
My name is Stephen Moore.
Only one of these young men is the real Stephen Moore. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, Peggy Cass, Orson Bean, and Kitty Carlisle. On to tell the truth. And here sitting in for Bud Collier is our host, Robert Q. Lewis.
Hi, thank you very much. Good evening. Welcome once again to Tell the Truth. And panel, I tell you, you have some stories tonight that are just beautiful.
Oh, tell us one.
I think you will enjoy yourself. Orson, you open tomorrow night at Mineola. Tell.
Yes, I'm doing Mary Mary. It was a hilarious play by Gene Kerr in Mineola, and Tom played that part.
I thought I remembered that name.
Yeah.
It's
Mary
the story
Mary,
of Peggy
Mineola,
Cass.
Mineola.
Mineola.
Good luck,
yeah.
good luck. All right. Tonight we are brought to you, and we're delighted to say so, by the makers of Winston cigarettes. There you go. Winston Filter cigarettes. Say that, Bob. Don't ruin the program. All right, panel, here we go. Would you please follow along as I read this story about our first people. I, Stephen Moore, am learning how to fly, not in an airplane, but under my own power like a bird. As a preliminary to actual flight, I'm taking a series of exercises to strengthen the necessary muscles. The whole project is under the direction of a highly regarded research scientist. To enable us to study the anatomy of flight at first hand, we captured a turkey buzzard with a wingspan of almost 6 feet. In honor of a pioneer in the study of manned flight, we named our buzzard Leonardo, for Leonardo da Vinci. By studying Leonardo's flight characteristics in a wind tunnel, we hope to get me into the air as the first human being to fly entirely under his own power. Signed, Stephen Moore. All right, panel, I told you, they're wild ones. Here are 3 young gentlemen who all claim to be Stephen Moore, who's going to be, I think, the first human airline. Let's start the questioning with Peggy Cass. Peg?
Number 2, does your mother know?
Yes.
Number 3, which muscles do you, are you going to flap your arm?
No.
Well, number 1, are you going to do a great butterfly kick?
No, it's a matter of using a series of muscles in the body.
I see. Well, now, number 2, are you going to start from the ground and zoom up, or are you going to start from the top of the building and flap down?
No, we're going to start from the ground and zoom up.
Number 3, do you really believe that you're going to be able to do this?
Yes, ma'am.
That's grand. Number 1, are you going to use like little wooden paddles or something? You're just not going to stay there and go off and on.
No, we're right now trying to develop a material light enough to make the experiment possible, actually.
Thank you, Peg. Orson?
Number 2, when you were a little kid, did you used to read Batman and Robin books? And how did you have dreams of glory? I used to dream I used to fly. Did you, number 2?
Yes.
And is that what gave you the idea for this?
Well, just because I want to.
Number 3, do you actually believe that if someone pushed you off of the top of a 30-story building, you would fly in another direction other than straight down?
Not now.
Not now, but someday when you get... Number 1, if I got myself in shape, could I fly?
I think so,
Well,
depending
what
on your
would I
weight.
need other than power, muscle power?
Well, after you've been developed physically, I would say then actually it's a matter of practice, developing the proper...
But number 1, the birds took millions of years.
Hey. Kitty?
Number 1, this is a fascinating program. Who is the scientist that is inventing this?
John Cini.
Has he any relation to you?
No, he's...
Number 2, why were you picked for this project?
I work under him.
Oh, where is that?
Seaford, Delaware.
Number 3, what other materials except this light of an air thing that you're trying to develop are you going to use for the flight?
Well, we plan to use many synthetic materials. Basically,
possibly nylon, polyester,
Will
dacron.
there will be wings, in other words?
Yes, ma'am.
I see. Number one, who was Icarus?
Sorry, there's the time, Kitty. Now, Tom.
Number 3, where are those turkey buzzards found?
Number 3.
Number 3, please.
I imagine they're all over the country. There are many of them in Delaware.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they had wing spreads that big, but I remember reading something about the thing. Number 2, where are you going to try first? Do you know? Have you picked a spot?
Well, most likely an airport or something like that. An open space.
You ever thought, number 1, have you ever thought of Kitty Hawk?
Not at this stage.
Or Arlington National Cemetery? Number 3. What is the purpose of the entire experiment, number 3, without being facetious? What was your intention?
The purpose of the experiment is to determine whether man can fly under his own power.
Well, there you go, panel. Once again, I ask you to cast your ballots, if you will, without consultation, marking for either number 1, number 2, or number 3. And gentlemen, you understand that you as a team will get $250 for each incorrect vote. Now, please don't fly away. Are you all marked up there? Okay. Tom, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number 3 because he looks like a member of a family of wine spars I knew in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and maybe that's... No, I just thought that he was the most serious and determined and the dumbest.
All right. Peggy?
Oh, boy, I wish you, whoever you are, a lot of luck, and I hope you get a good wind and everything. I voted for number 1. Blessings on you, little man.
All right. Orson.
My Uncle Farnsworth thought he could fly. He went right out the window. I was betting he could make it. I voted for number 3 because of all the reasons Tom gave. And he has a kind of a turkey buzzard look about him. If you work long enough, you will take on the characteristics, I think.
Kitty?
I voted for number 1 because he looks like a proper dedicated scientist. And although number 2 is small, and it might be easier to fly if you're smaller and more compact to start with, it seems to me that number 1 has been working on the muscles.
Well, I would hope so. Well, there are the votes. I wonder how you agree at home. Let's find out now, shall we? Which of these 3 young... Come down here. Young gentlemen really hopes to fly like a bird. Will the real Stephen Moore please stand up? Yeah! If I have a moment, I'd like... Stephen, you're a junior at VPI?
Yes, sir.
And tell a little bit about that. How did this start?
Well, it started, Jack Saney is my next-door neighbor in Seaford, Delaware. I'm a co-op student, so that I work half the time in Delaware and I go to school half the time. And he had picked up, well, he'd seen many of these new materials, and basically they inspired us both. I mean, these new materials. To the point...
Yeah. Let me, I must cut it short only for the sake of time, and please forgive me, but you really hope that you really believe there is a chance, do you?
Yes.
I hope you can come back and prove it to us. I really do. Good luck to you. Good luck.
I think you can go, Bob.
Well, I don't want to get too deeply into this, but yeah, I'm sure that he thinks he can elevate himself and go a little bit. Thank you, Jack. Good luck. Good luck indeed. Now then, let's find out. Number 1, you got 2 votes. Let's find out who you really are.
My name is Bob Riley, and I'm a journalist with the Coast Guard in New York.
And number 2, tell us about you.
My name's Timothy Walsh. I work for the Period Shop Limited. I'm a furniture designer.
Well, there you go. Well, fellas, as you see, there are 2 incorrect votes, which means a total of $500 for you to share. Thank you very much, and good night. Well, the panel will be back in just a moment, right after this. That one was good. Wait till you meet our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Sheila Mowgli. My name is Sheila Mowgli. My name is Sheila Mowgli.
All right, panel, would you please listen while I read? I, Sheila Modley, am a bookmaker. I work in one of Great Britain's 14,000 government-licensed betting shops. Last year, I entered a contest with 300 other lady bookmakers and was selected Miss Betting Shop for 1964. Most of the bets I place are for horse races and dog races, but I also make book on other sporting contests and even on local and national elections. Although I have operated as a bookmaker for 3 years, I have never attended either a horse race or dog race. Signed, Sheila Mowgli. Three very attractive young ladies panel. They all claim to be Sheila Mowgli, England's Miss Betting Shop for 1964. Orson, would you care to start the cross-examination?
Indeed I would.
Indeed it would.
Number 2, you're a fine, healthy girl and a credit to your race.
Thank you very much.
Number 2, how long has bookmaking been legal in Great Britain?
Since 1960.
Number 1, is there such a thing as the number in England? Do you know what that means, number 1? The number?
No,
Number 3, is there a thing called the number?
never heard
Number
of it.
that comes out. Number 1, again, who is Alf Salmon?
I'm afraid I don't know.
Number 3, Alf Salmon?
No.
Number 2, if you had a hot dog in a race, say, in other words, what would the odds be?
Well, we don't have the hot dog. Somebody else does.
In other words, the odds are set up by others than you, I see.
All right, thank you, Orson. Kitty.
Number 2, did you bet on yourself in this contest?
There was no betting on this contest.
Ah, what a shame. Number 3, where do you operate?
Lancashire.
Number 1, is there something called a pari-mutual?
A pari-mutual?
Yeah.
If there is, I don't know. I'm afraid.
Number 2, how are the odds set up?
The odds are set up with a tote board at the racetrack, the same as they are.
And they phone the odds into you?
Well, we see the odds, yes. They come in and we have them over the blower.
How much do you make a year, number 3?
I'm sorry, Kitty. Time is up. Now, let's
I'd like
go
to ask,
Tom.
if I may ask
Sure.
number 2 if she's familiar with the term pari-mutual.
Yes, I am.
What does that mean?
Well, I believe it's something to do with it's a machine, is it not, that operates like a totalizer board.
I think that's right. I wonder why number 1 hadn't heard of it. Number 3, are you familiar with the betting? Who
No.
sets up your odds, number 3? Who arranges for the odds?
The
that you-
tote.
Not the boss of your betting shop?
No.
Number 3, do you know the name of your present commissioner?
No, I don't.
Number 2, do you?
The local commissioner?
Well, I was thinking of the biggest shot.
We'll never find out, Peg.
Number 1, at the track, does the bookies name the same odds as the tote board in England?
We don't have bookies at the track.
Number 2, you know, in a betting shop, do you work in a betting shop,
Yes,
by
I
the
work
way?
in a betting shop.
When you, do you quote the same prices as the tote board necessarily?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Number 3, who's the biggest bookie in England? The biggest
Ladbrokes.
Thank you. Number 2, what does Albert Finney's father do?
Albert Finney's father is a bookmaker, I believe.
Well, there you go. There you go. It's time to place your bets, if you will. Without any consultation, please mark your ballots and select, if you will, bookmaker number 1, number 2, or number 3. And ladies, again, I point out, each incorrect vote is worth $250, I betcha. Have we all marked?
I am.
Good. Tom? Oh, sorry.
Okay.
All right, Tom, will you start?
I've got a filmy number 2 there. I thought she was wearing a bathing suit, and I thought maybe that was part. No, I just thought that she knew more about betting and so forth than the other 2.
All right, Peg.
Well, I voted for number 3. In the first place, the tracks in England are full of bookies, as well as the tote board. They all stand around there with their yellow, rah, rah, rah. And I voted for number 3 because number 2 was just a little too Lancashire indeed. I think it's number 3.
All right, Orson.
I lost half a crown once with Alf Salmon at Ascot. Not surprising you didn't know him. It's a big country. I voted for number 2 because she's so adorable and she has I think she has a Lancashire kind of accent, number 1. It's Welsh.
It's Welsh.
I was close.
It's Welsh.
When you live in another country, you're not sure. Just move on.
Kitty?
Well, I voted for number 1 because she has an enigmatic look. And I think if you're going to be a betting shop lady, you should have an enigmatic look because it's an enigmatic business.
Well, Enigmatically speaking, there are the votes. And boy, that's as wide a disparity as we could possibly have. Let's now find out which of these three attractive ladies really is Miss Betting Shop for 1964 of England. Will the real Sheila Mowgli please stand up?
Hot dog.
Thank you, Sheila. You're just as pretty as you can be. Congratulations on your choice there.
Well, I've asked number 2 to stand up anyway, would you?
Let me find out first. Number 1, would you tell us who you really are, please?
My name is Maureen Taylor, and I'm a stewardess for Pan American World Airways.
Well, number 2, you got 2 votes. Now, you tell us who you really are, please.
My name is Lorna Lewis, and I read books for Recording for the Blind.
I beg pardon, John?
I'd like to ask number 3, the real Miss Modley, if she's willing to put any odds on whether that first guy's ever going to fly or not.
Very good. Well, ladies, as you can see quite easily, there have been 3 incorrect votes, which means a total of $750 for you to share. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much, and good night. And now here's a difference you probably never thought about. The most interesting story. Let's meet our third team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Father Walter Chyzyk.
My name is Father Walter Chyzyk.
My name is Father Walter Chisig.
Panel, once again, I ask you to follow along as I read. I, Father Walter Chyzyk, am an American who lived over 20 years as a Roman Catholic priest behind the Iron Curtain. I volunteered to go to Russia as a missionary and slipped behind the Iron Curtain as one of a gang of Polish laborers. After a summer in a Soviet lumber camp where I functioned secretly as a priest, I was discovered and thrown into jail as a, quote, spy for the Vatican. The next 5 years I spent in the infamous Lubyanka prison in Moscow, and the following 10 years I spent at hard labor in mines and factories north of the Arctic Circle in Siberia. After Stalin's death, I was released from prison, but not allowed to leave Russia. Eventually, the U.S. Department of State effected my return home in an exchange arrangement. I have told the story of my ordeal in a recently published book entitled With God in Russia. Signed, Father Walter Chyzyk. Panel, 3 gentlemen. They all claim to be Father Walter Chyzyk, who spent more than 20 years behind the Iron Curtain. Tom Poston, would you start this, please?
Oh, thank you. Well, Father, I'm glad you're back home, but I must say there's a lot of work that could be done over in that country. God bless you. Father, you must be familiar with burials. Number 3, how do they bury people above the frost line? Number 3.
Well, they just dig graves. And
during the wintertime?
The wintertime, they dig graves, and just as here, but it's much harder to dig them.
Number 2, how deep are those graves?
Rather shallow, I would say 2-3 feet.
Thank you. Number 1, how do Russians pronounce Moscow? I happen to study a guitar with a Russian cat, and how do they pronounce Moscow?
Moscow?
Well, I guess I better not ask any language questions, had I?
I think that would be sort of unfair, Tom. Thank you. Now, Peggy.
Thank you. Father number 2, how did you earn your living after they released you from prison?
Basically as a mechanic, an automobile mechanic.
Thank you. Father number 3, were you allowed to say Mass after you got out of prison?
After I was out, I could say Mass secretly.
Oh, then you did it without official permission?
No, you had to get permission, but I...
Oh, well, number 1, were people allowed to go to your Mass when you said Mass?
No, there was no official recognition of it.
Thank you. Number 2, a very famous Russian was executed right after Stalin died in Lubyanka prison. Who is that?
You may be thinking of Beria.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peg. Orson.
Number one, what is the average young Russian's attitude towards God and religious teachings?
Well, usually they want to know who God is.
I see. Number three, is there a undercurrent, is there a desire for religion other than among the old people from the Tsarist days?
Well, among the young, there isn't.
Among the elderly?
Among the young, there isn't.
Among the young, there is not. Number two, why do the Russians persecute the Jews on and on when they say they don't? And why, for instance, do they not allow them to make the matzahs and things?
Probably for the same reasons that the Russians or the Germans did, pseudo-political reasons.
I see. Number one...
Thank you, Orson. Kitty.
Number three, where is Irkutsk?
It's in the east.
Hmm?
In the east of Russia.
Number two, where, do you agree with that?
Yes, it's almost as far east as you can get in Russia.
Number one, where is Cardinal Mindszenty now?
He's still under house arrest.
Thank you. Number two, what is the Ogpu?
The Ogpu is the old name for the Russian secret police. It has had two names since then.
Can you give me one of the new names, number three?
There's a KGB now.
And what is the NKVD?
NVD, that was just before they changed this name.
I see, thank you. Number two, what were you given to eat when you were in the northern part of Siberia?
I could sum it up by saying very little.
Well, there you are, panel. Once again, time to vote, and if you will, please make a choice. Select on your ballots either number one, number two, or number three. Most interesting story. Most interesting story. All right, are we all set?
No.
No.
I can't. It's
I
too
know,
low.
darling, it is not easy.
All right.
All right, may we start with Tom Poston. Tom, how'd you vote?
I voted for number three. I must say, this is, gee, that's 20 years of his life for the sake of his religion and his work. That's really praiseworthy, I must say. Good for you.
Right, indeed. Peggy?
I voted for number three. I don't know why, I just feel it is number three.
All right. Orson?
I feel it's number two, but for some bizarre reason I voted for number one. I just don't, they're all, there's three of the best, two of the best liars and one of the best real ones I've ever seen.
All right, Kitty?
I would like to add my congratulations, too, for this remarkable feat. And I voted for number one because Irkutsk, I think, is the capital of Siberia. And two and three didn't say that. They said it was in the north, but...
No, the east.
In the east, I mean.
Yes.
But I voted for number one.
All right, there are the votes. I wonder how you at home feel about the way they voted. Well, let's find out now, if we can, which of these three gentlemen really spent more than 20 years behind the Iron Curtain. Will the real Father Walter Chyzyk please stand up? This is so amazing a story. Father Chyzyk, I am told, lived for all his years in Russia on a diet of soup and black bread. It is incredible to believe that for 15 years he ate no butter, no milk, no fresh fruit, and no meat. And I do think, Father, that so many of us would like to read your book. Would you once again give us its title and its publisher?
The title of the book is With God in Russia. It's just narrating the facts without any criticism or without any antagonism.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for being with us. Congratulations to you on your return. Well, number one, you really fooled them. You got 2 votes. Would you tell us who you are, sir?
My name is Mark Heenahan, and I'm in the advertising department at Sperry Rand Univac.
Very good. And number 2, you are an excellent fibber. Tell us about you, sir.
My name is Paul Goodyear. I'm a placement director with the Charles Prince Personnel Agency.
Thank you. Well, as you see, there have been 2 incorrect votes, which means a total of $500 for you to share. Thank you so very much, and good night. Right now, time out for a brief film, then back. Time we have for tonight. Pal, you were very good. Thank you so much.
Thank
Good
you.
night. And good night for the makers of Winston. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon in our daytime version of To Tell the Truth. And until then, this is Robert Q. sitting in for Bud Collier and reminding you, as Bud always does, to tell the truth.
To Tell the Truth is a Mark Goodson, Bill Todman production. To Tell the Truth has been brought to you tonight by Tempo Filter Cigarettes. For taste too good to miss, Tempo. This is Johnny Olson speaking for To Tell the Truth, the program recorded.